Amplify Daily number 55, the energy. Trust it. So, um, lean into those who are leaning into you. And that means pay attention. Pay attention to the micro moments. A lot of times people don't notice the little clues that are around us all the time for what direction we need to be looking in. And what I mean by that is there are people, there are experiences, there are things that happen that sometimes are for a moment in time, and they're just to show you something, give you a quick lesson, or to remind you of something. Then there are some things that happen and that are people that come into your life, and they're for a season, and others are for a lifetime. Whatever it is, embrace it and really learn the lesson. Keep the lesson. Don't try to stuff square peg in round hole. Really trust the energy. And I'm gonna give you an example of what I mean around trusting the energy, paying attention to micro moments. For the last probably 15 years now, I've been doing a very consistent thing at the end of meals. I will actually ask the waiter or waitress. I'll say some version of what kind of tip do you want? And without fail, y'all, the answer is pretty much always, oh no, I couldn't. Just whatever you want to give is fine. And my next question is, so how often do people ask you what kind of tip do you want? And the answer is, well, pretty much never. I say, has it ever happened? And usually they'll say like once or twice over the entire time that they've ever been bartending or serving on wait staff. And I say, so here is my recommendation to you if you're willing to hear it, and I always get their permission before I share anything. I say, what you just told me is you've been a waiter or waitress for X number of years. And in all that time, you've had one person, maybe two, to actually ask you, what kind of tip do you want? And I do it pretty much religiously. And the reason why is so that I can, hopefully create a moment, a transformative moment where they from that point forward look at things differently. But um, in general, they are so in an automatic mode of being deferential. Oh no, I couldn't, that they don't actually just stop for a moment and trust the energy and say, hmm, this literally never happens. Like, no one ever asked me what kind of tip do I want. Let me actually get engaged here. What kind of tip do I want? Do I want 200? Do I want 100? Do I want 50? What do I think they'll be willing to give? And honestly, the first time that I've had somebody ever say a number was last year. It's a guy who's a waiter, I think now a manager at Soho House in Chicago. His name is Thomas, and not me. Like literally, his name is Thomas. And I asked him, at the end of the service, I said, "What kind of tip do you want?" And he thought about it for a second. He said, 100, and got the $100 tip. So the people who don't actually say what they want, I leave them with this. You have gone through your entire life and your entire career as a server, never having had, or for the most part, pretty much never having had anybody ask you this question. I just tend to pay attention to those moments that are an anomaly from your day to day life. When you have something happen, it's like, that's odd, that's different. I generally tend to lean in because I think a lot of those moments are, whether you call it, God, universe, whatever your preference is. I think it is a higher powers, little context clues trying to light up an arrowed path for us to follow if we'll just kind of trust and tune into that energy that's all around those little bitty moments that are out of context. It's like, why did that happen? This person, why are they in my inbox? That's different. Why are they on my mind? All of those are different context clues. So when something happens that's like, that was odd, I always lean into it. And last week, Ian and I were at Soho House, and we had just walked in. We were just gonna sit there for a bit, relax and talk before she was gonna go and pick up our kids from school. So we take one lap around like the upstairs bar at Soho House before we go on the other side. 'Cause we were looking to see which side we wanted to sit on. So we walked slowly around the one side, and then when we got back to the front of Soho House, kind of near where you first get off the elevators in Chicago, there's a gentleman there who was sitting in like a large booth by himself when we took the first lap around. And we had briefly caught eye contact, said hello and just kept moving, just very cordial. We get back around to the top. We've made a full circle and he's now walking toward us. Now he's had to walk across the entire room to get here, but he's walking toward us. He walks up and he says, "Hey, were you two looking for a seat?" And I said, "Well, actually, we were just taking a full lap around the building to see which side we were going to sit on. But, then he said, well, just in case you do decide to sit over here, I got this full section and I just finished up a business meeting and I am probably getting ready to head out. So y'all can feel free to take it." Now, a lot of people might have seen that little interaction as nothing and say, "Oh, well, thank you very much." And either they get the section or they don't, and they just kind of move on with their day. For me, that's a micro moment. That's something that is out of the ordinary for random person to literally get up, walk all the way across the room just to talk to two total strangers and say, "Hey, I noticed y'all walk around. Were y'all looking for a place to sit? If so, you can take mine." That is going out of your way to be generous to another human being. I notice stuff like that. So in our conversation, I actually just leaned in a bit more. I wasn't just cordial. I actually intended now to get to know this person a little bit because, like, what is it about them that would have them reach out, walk across the room and try to make sure that we got a spot? That is different. That is a abnormal kind of kindness. And so I was very curious to find out what the situation was. So ended up taking that person. We had walked around the whole building and didn't really see a spot we liked. And we came back and just decided to take him up on his invitation for us to sit there in his booth, and he was going to be heading out, his section, I should say. So we walk back over to a section, and on the walk over, it's probably 15 seconds. We're chatting just a bit, and we get to the section. Conversation just naturally goes forward a little bit, and I think I might have asked him, "What do you do professionally?" Because I'm curious about this energy. I'm curious about what line of work or career this person's in, because I can clearly see that um, that there's something a little bit different about this person. Long story short, we ended up talking a bit. He asked me about my career. I had to ask him about his, and he turns out to be a very famous person's dad, and he's there and just kind of hanging out. Just finished a business meeting, but we had a great conversation and even explored synergies a bit, right? And we're probably going to have a follow up one-to-one meeting here in the next week or two, just to explore and see if there are any connection points to what we're up to professionally. But there was just something about the oddness of that person coming up to the front and going out of their way to say, "Hey, did y'all need a seat?" I lean into stuff like that. I trust the energy when it's coming toward me. And when somebody out of the ordinary pops onto my radar and it feels like great energy, I explore that. I find out more about that because I want to know what the origin story of that is, and if there's something for me, like a context clue that I need to be paying attention to and looking to move in that direction. Again, either for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. So, um, another person who I am kind of right in the middle of doing this with. There's a young man who I met a couple months back. And we met through some, different things that our kids are doing together, and had a really good conversation. Hadn't really talked since then. And I saw him at a kids event earlier today, and we got a chance to talk a little bit. He asked me some questions about what I do and how I do it, and there was just something about this guy's energy that was kind of proactive and leaning in. And as a result, and he still is like in a growth phase in his career. I guess we all are to a degree, but really looking for where to marry his skill set around a passion that he has for the online space. And in our talking, I could just sense the leaning in from him. Really interested in asking the questions, really interested in what I've got going on, and um, people like that, I tend to lean in. I don't know what there is to do for with myself and this young man. No idea at all. But I do trust the energy in my gut. My gut says to pursue some conversations with him. And if nothing else, I'm going to end up with great conversations that are going to be enlightening. But the bigger reality is something is telling me to go have conversation with this young man. So I'm definitely going to do that. I'm definitely going to do that. It doesn't take me all day to follow my instincts. And so far, they have led me in a very useful direction, because the more that I trust them, the clearer they get. But when you're not trusting your instincts, when you're ignoring them, they get muddy, they get depressed. It is much harder to actually, um, it's much harder to, stay with that focus. Excuse me. So again, the thing I want to leave you with is really trust the process, trust your energy. And when those micro moments pop up and people pop into your life, and it's like, that's interesting. That's odd. I wonder why they came up and started talking to me. I wonder why they did this. I wonder why they did that. When someone's leaning into you, lean back in. Ask that extra question that maybe you wouldn't normally ask, and see if there are synergies that are trying to open up. Because a lot of times those little micro actions, they are a lit path illuminating your way into a lesson, into a relationship, into a season, if you'll just pay attention to them. Y'all have a great day. This was Amplify Daily. Talk to you next time.